I'm gonna now move over to the French fireside chat. Happy to introduce Sharanya from Techfugees France, as well as Alvarro from Refugee Infobus, and Jeremie Garnier, both from Cisco France and Techfugees in France, who will be talking about access to connectivity in France. So I'm inviting Jeremie on the virtual stage.
Thank you, Louise. So I'm Jeremie Garnier. So as Louise mentioned, I'm part of the Techfugees France since 2 years now. And so real pleasure to moderate this session. So we'll talk about the Connectivity project with Sharanya, who is currently co-leading the French chapters, and also Alvarro, who is currently the co-founder of Refugee Infobus. And so just to save the time, I just pass the hand to Sharanya so that we can discuss the Connectivity project. And if you have any question, please raise that on the chat, and we'll have 5 minutes at the end to discuss on that. Sharanya.
Okay, thank you, Jeremie, for the introduction, and also to Louise, and yeah, big congratulations to Kenya Red Cross and the Kenyan chapter, by the way, on the amazing work done so far. So yeah, as I've been introduced before, I'm Sharanya, and I co-lead the French chapter. I also work for another company called Gravity, which deploys digital identity solutions in Kenya and in Turkey and other places as well. So the interesting thing about what we have been doing over the last year with Techfugees France is that the need for connectivity is something that is persistent, and it affects many different country contexts. So over the last year, I've also had the chance to discuss with the teams in Kenya and in Canada and elsewhere regarding lack of connectivity and how that affects each of their respective country contexts and what they're able to do. And this is something that all Techfugees chapters experience at one level or another. So with that being said, I just wanted to make a point on how lack of connectivity is definitely a problem that we've all seen affecting displaced people that we've worked with. And with this in mind, what really pushed Techfugees France to address this issue was the COVID-19 pandemic last year and the lockdown that then triggered the closure of many public spaces and also cafes, restaurants, and housing centers that previously served as points where displaced people could access internet freely. Just as a reminder, we know that access to internet isn't an end in itself. It's something that helps to access information, which is necessary to then be able to live a dignified life, as most of us do. And this is where it really becomes difficult when you're a displaced person who arrives in a country and you don't speak the language, and you have to register and become a legal resident, et cetera, et cetera. And all of those things sort of are contingent on your ability to access the internet in a reliable, accessible, free of cost manner. And with the pandemic, what we saw last year was that the closure led to a lot of refugees and other displaced groups in France being endangered in terms of not being able to communicate freely with people they know, with people back home, and also more importantly, at least in the shorter run, perform administrative duties such as registering with the immigration authorities or even searching for affordable and available housing and additional services. And so with this in mind, we decided with the help of one of our local partners here called Bienvenue Wi-Fi to roll out access to internet as a potential program to test the waters. And so with our local partners who basically provide portable Wi-Fi boxes, we lent around 10 portable Wi-Fi boxes to 6 or 7 associations working in France. And we allowed them to keep these boxes for a bit and then forward them to the respective families or individuals they were working with. What was really interesting to see in this time was that the initial response to just being able to lend these boxes for 2-3 months, it's what we had envisioned initially. The feedback we received was overwhelmingly positive. People told us that this was a need that shouldn't just last to address the issues made evident from the pandemic, and that it should be something that should be made more permanent. So we decided to continue our rollout with these 10 Wi-Fi boxes that we got from our tech partner, Wi-Fi, who are now called Travel Wi-Fi. And we then extended to cover several other different associations. The most common use cases we saw of being able, or when you have the Wi-Fi boxes, was for education, health, both mental and physical, social networking, and most importantly, and this was the need that was present across all age groups and all regions, education, whether that was for children or for people who were older as well. And now the fact that we had this positive feedback, we realized we actually wanted to scale this program to be able to first reach outside of the more urban centers, because this is where, you know, it is slightly easier to still find access to Wi-Fi because you have displaced communities that are relatively more visible and seen. And second, to also be able to reach more people with the Wi-Fi that we were providing in a way that is still optimum and sustainable in terms of our resources and efficiency. And this is where Jeremie, because he was working with Cisco, actually offered to put us in touch with them, and through their donation program actually procure 10 additional boxes that had a significantly higher capacity to support more simultaneous connections. And so we could reach potentially a higher number of users. And so all of this in one side, and with the other fact of wanting to scale to reach people that were outside urban centers who were a bit more on the front lines, is what led us then to our collaboration with Refugee Infobus. And with that, I'll hand it over to Alvarro to maybe explain a little bit about our collaboration and what your plans are for the fundraising.
Thank you very much, Sharanya. Yeah, so it was very, very interesting to hear all these things you were saying about connectivity in France. And I want to start by saying that Calais is not like a representation of France. I want to insist very much on the significance of this place, because it's a border city. So all the issues that happen here are very particular. So I want to start also comparing the situation with other things we've talked about, like the chapter in Kenya. I think Calais used to be on the news years ago when there was a big camp, but now the situation has completely changed. And the work the organizations do here is conditioned by the fact that there is no camp at all. So the reality here is very informal campsites that constantly change because of the police presence. All we're going to talk about now is a consequence of the will of the French and the European authorities, because they don't want people to be in Calais, because all the people that are here are trying to cross to the UK, either by boat or using a lorry or the tunnel, the ferry. Calais is a very special place, and it's quite hostile, especially for the communities that are displaced here trying to cross. So that very much conditionates our work. Basically, what we do here is to provide Wi-Fi and phone charging services to the different communities that are here. And that's the answer to the main problem, which is the lack of access to these services. And as Sharanya was saying, that's very much linked to the lack of access to information. So Refugee Infobus is a small grassroots organization that works mainly with a van. So in our van, we pack all our equipment. And I want to insist on the difference between a camp, a refugee camp, or the reality here, because everything that happens during our charging sessions is literally packed in our van. And then when we arrive, we unload the van, we set our station, we have tables, we have a generator. So when we arrive, we start our generator and we connect it to extension cables that go to different charging boxes. So then people know where we are. We work in 3 different campsites around Calais, and we stay in each place for 2.5 hours, so people have enough time to charge their phones. And at the same time, that gives the opportunity to spend a lot of time with the communities, and that leads to many questions we're asked by the different communities about the services available in Calais, the services provided by different organizations. Yeah, the reality here is very much conditioned by the constant evictions. Every 48 hours, there are evictions and police presence that try to take tents from people. And from time to time, once or twice a month, there are big evictions operations in which people are literally put in buses and sent elsewhere in France against their will. So that leads to constant changes about the different services provided by different organizations. And we are a main source of information for the communities. And we can respond to different questions they have about where to find clothes, where to find food, where to find legal advice, and where to find different services provided, especially addressed to women or minors. And during our sessions, we set our station, and we offer the charging services, and we basically have quite rudimentary boxes in which people can plug their phones, and at the same time we have wooden boxes with cables already plugged in, so people without a charger can always charge their phone. And we also have a Wi-Fi box, so we provide free Wi-Fi access. And at the same time, we also have a limited capacity, but we provide chargers. So people ask us to give them chargers and SIM cards. And that's basically what we do. During our sessions, we also try to create a more like a community space, although it's not really possible because after the 2 hours and a half, we will leave. But during this time, it really makes a difference for the communities, our presence there, because we have a speaker and people can play music with their phones. We offer tea. We also have board games and balls, so people can play sports. It really depends on the weather. And we know what we're doing is already very good, but we know we have a lot of potential to improve things. So we're constantly in need of better equipment. We face many challenges with especially when it rains, because it's quite dangerous in terms of protecting the equipment from the water. But yeah, that's a brief summary of what we do. And yeah, I don't know if there are any questions on the chat. If not, very happy to answer or tell a bit more.
Yes, thanks, Alvarro. So I would say that that's kind of amazing to see what you can do with only one van. So that's really good stuff. And I would say one question for you, Alvarro. So following this donation and campaign, what would be for you the next step in order to really help further the displaced people in Calais? Because yeah, this is kind of specific in Calais and not easy to support. So what would be your next step?
So yeah, for the campaign, we've been talking about especially about our IT needs. As I was saying, we have a Wi-Fi box, but we will need to improve what we have. We have a router and an antenna, but there are more people coming constantly. So one of our main needs is to improve the connectivity and the capacity to reach more people. At the same time, regardless the devices, we always need to improve the equipment, and we need to make it waterproof and weatherproof. This morning it was raining a lot, and it was quite challenging because we have a gazebo that we need to set first thing when we arrive. Otherwise, it's very risky to install and set the station if water comes into the plugs. Yeah, and other needs in terms of IT that we have is to also waterproof the boxes. So the presence and the knowledge and expertise from Techfugees is really helpful for us. Yeah, we were talking about future deployment or a visit from Techfugees to see like in person what we do. And yeah, finally, we also have a phone repair and a phone distribution program. We don't directly distribute phones to the communities because we don't have enough capacity and enough phones to distribute, but we do get donations. So what we do is to distribute phones indirectly through other organizations that have a better capacity to do assessments and especially distribute phones in a safe way. We can't give 5 phones where we have 200 people that may ask for one, because it's not fair. We don't have enough, and it could lead to risks and fights. But we're working on a supply chain, so we know there's a lot of potential to make connections thanks to this webinar and future collaborations. And yeah, we'd like to have a more sustainable source of donations to then increase our capacity and be able to distribute more phones to the communities in Cali. So yeah, we are very excited to be part of this campaign, and yeah, can't wait to keep doing more things.
Thank you, Alvarro. Thank you, Sharanya. So I will pass over then to Louise.
Thank you very much. As always, you have received in the chat the link for the crowdfunding campaign and also like the link to learn more about refugee infobus and Basefugees. We've recently published an article, a testimonial from the refugee infobus team to talk about their work on the ground, which is really impressive. So we're looking forward to get the funds and to start working with them to improve their IT equipment. And again, what is important there for us is really to understand how to support as well other organizations in other countries, providing mobile Wi-Fi hotspot, and to share the learnings that we'll get from collaborating and supporting refugee infobus on the ground in Calais. So thank you very much.